Hi everyone, welcome to Atomic Darts. I'm your host Matthew. On this channel we take a look at darts related materials, and other items that your subscribers ask us to review. So why don't you take a moment and become a subscriber, ring the bell down below, you'll know whenever I post a new video, and drop a comment if something you'd like us to review. Today we're going to be doing an update to a video I did a few years ago, and that is on flights and shafts. Alright, let's get into it. Alright everybody, so today we're doing a slight update of a video I did a few years ago on flights and shafts. We're going to take a quick second to run through some of the past stuff and just some basic information, and then we'll talk a little bit about some of the new concepts or the new brands that are on the market now. Now this is going to be a brief overview. There will be links down below to videos where I've talked about all these more in length, and we've done some close-up views of the product. So this again is just a good overview if you're new to darts, you're a beginner, or you've been playing darts for a short amount of time, or maybe you've been playing darts for a long time and you have questions about flights and shafts. Hopefully we'll get those answered within this video. And then at the end, if you hang in with me, I'm going to give you my #1 tip in regards to picking out flights and shafts. Alright, let's just dive into flights and what flight shapes are. And so, to help me out, I got a cheat sheet here. I didn't memorize all this, but there'll be pictures right up here of all of the different styles that I'm going to talk about right now. So one of the most common styles or shapes is the standard, and a standard shape dart flight provides excellent lift and stability for your darts. Well suited to beginners and players who prefer a heavy dart, so a heavier barrel. The standard flight is a reliable all-around option. Alright, so the most common flight that's out there, outside of the standard, well, I think it's more common than the standard, and I see manufacturers now shipping this flight more often than not, and that is the #6 or shape flight. Happens to be the flight I play with, or style flight. So shape or #6 flight is a smaller standard flight, slightly smaller than the standard, and are the go-to for most darts players. They provide maximum lift and stability of the dart when it is in flight. Small standard flights suit beginner players as they are more forgiving than other flight shapes, but also provide a stable setup for experienced players alike. And again, you're going to see a lot of the shape being used. It looks like the standard, but it is slightly smaller. I will say there is another flight out on the market that's even smaller than that and looks the same, and that is the X10 by Target. I don't know of any other flight that has that same shape as far as being the shape, which is the standard, but smaller than the shape. Anyway, it's smaller than the shape, but looks like the shape, and it again is the X10 by Target Darts, and it looks like that. Other shapes of flights are the kite. Again, picture right here. The kite shaped flight is for the player who wants maximum control of the dart and is looking for close groupings. So it's a little bit less area there when throwing and gives you a little bit tighter groupings technically, based on the fact that there's less flight to get in the way, I guess. But that's the idea behind the kite. Then there's the teardrop. The unique teardrop shape provides maximum lift for a small area, allowing for precise placement of your darts. I only know 2 guys that play the teardrop personally. They like it. That's all I can say about that. Then there's the slim flight. The slim flights are ideal for players using lighter darts, so you'll see a lot of soft tip players that are using like an 18 gram or a 16 gram barrel using the slim. If you simply want a flatter trajectory for your darts and are using a standard flight, these are the flights for you. So it's going to give you a straight in kind of flat trajectory into the board. It's not going to have that arc that you're going to see with like a standard or a shape. Then there's the lantern. And the lantern, which is pictured here, comes in a variety of real shapes. You've got things like this, which I call the guitar shape. It reminds me of an electric guitar from the 80s. That is technically a lantern shape, even though it's slightly different and off. And then you have things like this bumblebee right here, technically considered a lantern type shape. So the lantern, the advanced aerodynamic shape of the lantern flight keeps the tail of the dart down while providing optimum stability. So much like the slim, but with a little bit different uniqueness to it. So those are shapes of flights that are out there. Now these are folded flights that I'm talking about currently, or we're looking at. Most molded flights, 90-degree angled flights that are molded, come in a standard, a shape. The slim slim, and there are kites available. I haven't seen really any teardrops off the top of my head, but I'm sure there's one out there for some reason. I can't think of who it was. But those typically come in the shape and the standard. That's the most common that you're gonna find in the 90-degree molded style flights, which we're gonna look at here. And then of course, the slims would be the next most common in that, and then your kites and some of the other odd shapes that'll be out there. So let's dive into some of these manufacturers here. As we do that, I do want to talk about shafts real quick because we're going to overview some of the older stuff. You've got poly shafts, things like the Pro Grip here. So you've got a couple different sizes for the polys or the aluminum shafts. So you have aluminum shafts as well. They come in a short plus, intermediate plus, and then medium. That's kind of the longest. That's pretty standard across the board when it comes to your poly shafts and your aluminum shafts that a folded flight would go into. That's pretty, again, standard across the board. The big difference in the poly shafts is there are cheap polymers out there that break real easy, and you can tell they're flimsy. Now, the name brand stuff, like the Target, and you've got the Eagle Claw by Shot, and Mission's got their version, and those out there, they're typically a nicer poly. They've got a little bit more rigidity to them. They're stronger. They don't tend to break as easily at the shaft or at the barrel shaft connection. So they do cost a little bit more, but it's a much better shaft for you. So that's the polys. And then there's the aluminums, which have a little bit different weighting, and there's a little bit different rigidity and strength there too. And that does play into the flight of the Dart. So those are the standards there. There's kind of the standard mix up there. Let's talk a little bit about some of the shafts, the other versions of shafts that are out there. One of my favorite all-time shafts in regards to if I'm going to use a folded flight is by Red Dragon. This is the Nitro. It's a hybrid. It's got poly and then it has metal on the end, so it really holds that flight really well. Pull one of these out here real quick so you guys can see this. And we'll put a picture up here. But this top part is actually aluminum, it's metal. And then this is a polymer or a plastic. This is my favorite go-to if I'm gonna be using a folded flight. And I do use them occasionally in practice. So that's that version, and that's really kind of a hybrid of the two materials. Then you have things like this, which are titanium. This is by Target, and it goes in regards to the Phil Taylor line. But this is actually a titanium. It's got a little bit more weight to it. And of course, it's very strong, but there's a cost for that. You know, you're gonna pay a little bit more. And then there's carbon fibers. So you have these carbons. This is a Red Dragon. This is the Shot. Shot is my favorite so far on the carbon. But Red Dragon, it basically looks like your standard shaft, but it's in a carbon fiber. Much more durable, but there's a little bit of a cost to them. They cost a few dollars more than the polys or the plastics. So those are some different materials that are out there. Now let's talk briefly about the different manufacturers of flights and shafts. We'll run through that really quickly. Again, there's links down below where you can get more in depth on them. So we'll start off with the Harrow's Click. So this is the Harrow's Click system. They basically have a poly shaft right here. It's just a plastic shaft, and then you get these flights. They're actually really nice. They're smooth. They've got a velvety touch to them, but they just push in and they click down. I don't know if you can hear that, but it clicks. That's why they call it the Click. They do have some movement in them, so they will spin 90-degree folded flight. So these will compress down and bounce back. I like these. They have just that velvety feel to them. So that's a really nice entry level into this particular world of the molded flights. So that's the Harrow's Click. We'll jump over to the Cuesoul. So you have the Cuesoul molded flights, and they actually do two different things, just like Condor. So we'll do Condor after this one. But you have this particular flight shaft combination. So you have your shaft flight. It's all molded. It's a single piece. It's got a little flexibility there. These are on a set of barrels that Dylan's using. The other thing that Cuesoul has, they have these molded flights like this, but they have these shafts and they have the polys and the metals. For some reason, they do 4 shafts in the polys they give you. I guess they assume you're gonna break one. And then the metals, they give you a bunch of extra pieces for the springs. And you're like, springs? Yeah, springs. Their flights actually bounce. That's kind of their claim to fame, is this little bouncy flight. And what it does is it helps the flight kind of get out of the way when you've got close groupings. It's gonna move, it does move a little, but then it compresses down. So as that flight comes in and hits, it's gonna kind of compress down as those flights hit and move a little, technically giving you closer groupings. I like this, it's kind of cool just because it bounces. I like things like toys. There you go. So that's by Cuesoul. Again, there's links down below. There's more information on that. That's a product that's really kind of been out on the market for a little while, but it's really starting to take flight into the darts world. They've been putting out a little bit more marketing on it and talking a little bit more about this system, and it's actually a pretty cool system. Let's talk about the Robson Flights real quick. So these are the Robsons. These are molded flights. These actually go on whatever shaft you're playing. They do work on aluminums, not as well as, say, a poly. Let me grab one here real quick. But this is just a molded flight. It's just a flight, so it's not shaft flight. They don't have shaft specifics for these. One cool thing that Robson has done since my last video is they've come out with pictures on them, graphics on them. They've done some breadth into their lineup, giving us some options other than just colors. So I think that's cool. Thank you, Robson, for getting into that. But basically, this would just plug into your shaft like this, and it's gonna grip on there. Those two polymers together really have a nice grip, so this isn't gonna come shooting off in the event that flights touch when throwing. It really does grip really well there. They will go into an aluminum shaft. They just don't grip as well when doing so. They will go in there, they just don't grip as well. They really tend to grip much better with the poly shafts than with the aluminum shafts. So I did talk about this in the last video that I did. I like them. I like the Robsons. I played with them for a while. I do enjoy them. For the kids, I love them because they are learning how to put a flight on a shaft through those. It's pretty useful with kids. They can kind of get them on there. It's a lot better than the folded flights. Now, folded flights being less expensive, but they damage the heck out of those versus these guys. And they come in all kinds of shapes, including shape. Robsons, it's just a flight. Price-wise, not bad for what you get, and they do last. They're very durable. They will take a beating and keep on going. So that's the Robsons. Let's talk briefly about the Condors. So the Condors, this is the first company that I know of that really out on the market that was doing this particular shaft flight combo. So you have the shaft flight combo, and they're very flexible material. I like this. Their flights, really, you can mess with these things and they bounce back into that 90 degree. One of the things I really like about these, I see a number of soft tip players playing with this particular product. I like it. I think it's cool. I played with it for a little while. Not my cup of tea at this point in my darting career because I'm such the darter, but I like these, and these are perfect for kids. I love having more of these around because my kids can play with them. Now that I'm done doing this review, these will go to the kids. This is something they can just screw on. They don't typically break at the barrel. I really can't think of the last time I had one break. It's such a nice little flexible poly. But for the kids, like Dylan loves to do this. And these things just bounce back. So I do like this, especially for kids, but I see a number of people out there playing with them, and I like them. I think it's a fun flight shaft combination if you want to go with that. The other thing that Condor came out with this past year, so this is new, two things with Condor. One, they've got a much better selection of designs on their flights versus just standard colors. They've actually added some cool things to them. And then they came out with this. This is the Condor Axe. Again, there's a link down below. I did a full video on this. This is the Axe. It's a harder polymer than this. This is much softer, much more flexible than this guy. This is more of a rigid flight, but I have had them snap, and especially snap off here because it's a harder, stronger, thicker polymer, but because of the rigidity, when it hits the floor just right, they just blow apart. That's my downside with the Axe. Outside of that, it's a really nice flight shaft if you're not hitting the ground occasionally or your kids aren't playing with them. I like the rigidity in it. It really does hold up really well. But those are Condor. Again, there's some links down below so you can take a look at some of these particular products in more depth. Let's dive into the Fit Flight. So I like Fit Flights as well, a nice shape style. The nice thing that they do is like this right here. This is actually for autism. So they did one with autism where they donated some money. But again, this is just a nice polymer flight. So the thing about this versus say Robson is you have to use their shafts. So this is proprietary to their shaft system. And of course they offer a breadth of different shaft materials. They've got the polys, they've got carbons, they've got aluminums, they've got titanium, and a couple other materials that are available. And you can spend some serious money on shafts with these guys. But I like their flights, and I like that they do little compilations like this This one was to help out with autism. So that is, again, Fit Flight there. Let's talk a little bit about L Style, and then we'll get into the 8 Flight. So L Style, which is what I currently play with. I play with L Style. I play with a carbon fiber shaft for L Style. They have poly shafts. They've got the carbon shafts that are available. Now the interesting thing about them is they've got 2 versions for you. They have this, the Easy Flight, which is what I'm currently playing with. This happens to be the Easy Flight style that I'm playing with. They did a collaboration with Shot Darts, and they do this occasionally with different manufacturers out there. This is a collaboration they did with Shot Darts, and so that's actually the flights that I'm currently using. So the Easy Flight, which the cool thing about this is this will just stick on really any flight. You can use a poly flight, it will fit on there. So these will fit on a poly flight. So it's very similar to the Robson. They do fit better with the L shafts, and I'm using them on a carbon shaft. But what you'll notice about L Style, let me just open these up here real quick, so you can kind of see one of the things that they do from a locking mechanism is they've got this little cap, champagne cap, this little itty bitty piece, that'll fit inside the dart. There's a hole in the dart, I'll show that to you in a second. And that helps as this comes down to compress the shaft around the flight. That's the idea behind that. Well, what they've done is they've put the cap as a built-in on the Easy Flight. So when you push this down on an L style shaft, it actually collapses that shaft around the flight, holding it on more. It doesn't so much collapse on the polys, but they will work just because it'll slide in there. So that's the Easy Flight by L Style. And they come in reds and greens and multiple colors. And then of course they've got a number of different styles with colorations and graphics on them that are available. The other thing that L Style has, again, is this particular flight like this that has a hole in it. Okay? You're gonna put this little champagne cap in that hole. There we go. And then this just slides in here and grabs hold of that cap. Okay? It's not perfectly in there, but that's the concept behind that, and it holds on to that shaft. So these are the champagne caps. They do come in the polys, and they have them in aluminums, which is really nice because that holds on a little bit better and it doesn't squish when you're trying to put them in. I've had that happen before. All right, let's look at the last one here, and that is the 8 Flight. I like these flights. I haven't switched over to them because I'm really into the L styles right now, but this is probably something I'm gonna play with a little bit more and see where we go with it. But this is the 8 Flight, and they have standard colors like this, and then they've got cool collaborations with some darts players. This is the Paul Lim. Open this up here real quick. Again, this is a shaft flight combination that I'm really interested in giving a real go through, and I'm going to tell you why here right now. All right, so the cool thing about the 8 Flight again is we've got the Paul Lim. They've got these really nice designs. It is a poly, and then we have these cool shafts. Now, I will say I got a set of these in, and I let Dylan play with these, and they held up pretty well. He ended up snapping one of them, and that's always a concern for me. When Dylan breaks things, okay, that happens quite often, but it gives me some idea of how a product is playing out when it's broken or not broken by him, or how it's played with. I will say the Condors, the regular ones, played really well. They don't destroy those. The Axes broke within minutes. This particular system did fairly well for them, but what I really like about this system, you would screw it into your barrel, and then here's the shaft flight connection. It screws in. This thing will not come off. It becomes a one-piece unit, but you have the ability to change out the flights in the event that they get damaged, or if you want to go with a different look or style. I think that's really cool. Having personal touch to darts, I think, is extremely important. This, as much as it is a sport, allows for that artistic form as well. And that's one of the things I really like about the 8s. Not that it's a better setup or anything. Dylan did break this fairly quickly within a day or two of playing the setup, but I really like the fact that that screws on. And so for when they come loose, my kids can screw them on. I do everything through my kids because that tells me really the functionality of the product. They're able to screw those on and they look well. I would like to see them do like a carbon fiber shaft that allowed for this. That would probably hold up much better, but the poly shaft, unfortunately the poly that's being used, as nice as it is with the rigidity, its strength there, it's not strong enough for a 6-year-old. Outside of that, I like the 8 setup. When I come to kids, This is my go-to really in regards to kids playing with this, especially with my daughter, but Dylan chewing on them. So again, I put this all to the test of the kids. Right now I am using the L style. That is kind of the brand that I'm currently playing with the carbon fiber shaft, but I have touched base with all of these and there are goods and bads to all of them. All right, so here's the number one tip I've got for you. If you're new to darts, or even if you've been playing for a while, but really if you're a beginner and new to darts, the one thing that you're gonna wanna do is get yourself a number of flights and shafts, different size shafts, different lengths, different flights, all mixes of them, and start kind of practicing, kind of start experimenting with the different lengths and flights that work for you based on your throwing style. So one of the really cool aspects of darts, you get to design it yourself. You get to put your personality into your darts. So that's a quick look, semi-quick look, at some of the new flights and shafts that are available. Check the links down below. That'll take you to videos where I go a little bit more in depth, and the videos are shorter in regards to a particular brand or style that you like. Hey, thanks for watching. Again, don't forget to drop comments down below, maybe of things that you wish we had covered here or would like us to cover in the future. Thanks again for watching. This has been Atomic Darts. I'm your host, Matthew. We will see you on the next one. Thanks again.